Most people think they have a time problem, but let's be real, you don't have a time problem. You have an attention problem. And the truth is, your attention is being pulled, shaped, and influenced every single day by what you consume, what you scroll, and what you believe is information. So the real question is, are you actually informed or are you just overwhelmed?
Welcome to Mindset Mastery Moments, the best growth mindset podcast, recognized by Million Podcasts and ranked as a top mindset podcast by FeedSpot. We're proud to be in the top 1% on Listen Notes. Join Dr. Alisa Whyte as we explore powerful insights and strategies to elevate your mindset. Let's dive in.
Welcome back to Mindset Mastery Moments, the podcast where we disrupt outdated thinking, reclaim personal agency, and activate the mindset required to lead, live, and build at the next level. I'm your host, of course, Dr. Alisa Whyte, your number one mindset disruptor. And today we are talking about something that is quietly controlling your life, your decisions, your business, and even your beliefs, your attention, your information, and your ability to think clearly in the world full of just noise. And today's guest is not just talking about the problem, he is actively building a solution. My type of people. We're speaking to Mr. Kira Shishkin. He is the founder and CEO of informed.now, the number one news by text service designed to eliminate bias, clickbait, and information overload by delivering concise, factual daily briefings straight to your phone. But what makes this conversation powerful is not just what he's building, it's the depth of experience behind it. Kira is a 4-time serial entrepreneur and investor advisor to leading technology companies. His entrepreneurial track record includes co-founding a 100 million plus fintech marketplace with Intuit, building a venture capital syndicate and a stealth fund that elevated over 600 opportunities and executed multiple investments, and founding one of the largest private crypto mining operations in Eastern Europe with strong returns. Listen, beyond entrepreneurship, his background spans investment banking with over a $1 billion in transaction value advised, corporate strategy with over a dozen strategies implemented, and private equity and venture capital investment in category-defining companies. Academically, he holds honors degrees in economics, philosophy, and abstract mathematics, which I didn't even know there was another level to math. But from the University of Chicago, he is both School of Business with the additional of executive education through Stanford. He is also a Forbes 30 under 30 honoree. I was so excited to see that honor. I know how huge and how hard you have to work for them to recognize you. Where he built a world of public speaking champion and a thought leader focused on solving one of the biggest challenges of our time, information overload and media distortion. Kira, I know I talked a lot about your bio and what you've done, and I just had to, you say don't talk. You are young, brilliant, and definitely a prolific leader of our time. Welcome to Mindset Mastery Moments. But here's the thing, in your own words, just tell us who you are, humbly, what you do, and why you do it.
Wow, Alisa, thank you so much for that generous introduction. It's such a delight to be welcomed on your show. I'm a big fan of it, as you know. And, I think to really simplify my story, we're building an inevitable company that is working to reshape the news reading habit at a time when independent thinking is missing and is needed most.
Yes.
And that's what our mission is with informed.now.
Yes. And so you have taken it on from a perspective, a huge background, wide background. And what I would love to go straight to, because I opened this for a reason. You talk about attention being a superpower in your work. But if we're honest, most people have completely lost control of theirs. And it's funny because it's so subtle, right? So break that down for us. What's actually happening right now when it comes to how people consume information?
Totally. I think it's a super important kind of conversation to have. And I think a lot of people are forgetting or neglecting to kind of think about where their attention goes, which is also where, they say there's where your energy flows, that's where you wind up succeeding. And it has been commoditized so much by the media and the technology that we use and take for granted every single day. The bottom line, and that's kind of like where we play, is this recognition that in news media specifically, and this is true across every part of media, but where we play is news media specifically, the business model has been for quite some time ad driven. Right. So the way the news publisher makes money and sustains their operation is not anything or not anything more than being paid by the advertiser to surface ads to the user. And when that is your business model, you are inevitably optimizing for your customer. But your customer is not the reader, it is the advertiser. And when you're optimizing for the interest of the advertiser, you care about getting people to click at any cost, getting people stuck reading for as long as possible, and getting people to scroll and continue engaging in your echo chamber, in your ecosystem, in your doom scroll setup, so that you can serve them more ads and that you can serve them ads for long results. And that to me is not just attention commodification, right? That's definitely part of it, but it is attention hostaging. It's attention.
Yes.
It's attention terrorism, if I use such a strong word, because what they're doing is hijacking attention and they're holding it hostage for as long as possible, not letting you get on with your day, not letting you get on with your life. And this is true across social media and the way the news media works as well, with their dependence on advertisement.
And, I think it was about 2 years ago, Kira, that I actually saw a news segment. It was shared with me, and so I went digging, where people were suing Facebook, or I think it was Facebook or Meta, whoever, but they were suing one of the major league companies because there was now proof of the level of psychology that is played into holding our attention hostage. And they were showing you how it's done behind the scenes. And so now, for me at that point in my world, because maybe for some other people it's been out, I knew what it was, because I tell people you'll see a lot coming on social media. I have people who work with me who post, and I also have like systems that auto post it. I am not on social media that much. I really am not. I'm not going to lie. I don't have the time, but they were exposing that this is what's happening. And so when we think about it, I personally don't even watch the news. I don't subscribe, only because I feel like it just all gets too overwhelming, and then I go down different rabbit holes that I did not meant to. So I love to get blurbs of what's happening, and then I go look for the source because of that. So when we talk about informed med, I want to lean in a little. Informed now, I want to lean in because I see it every single day. People say they want to grow, they say they want success, but their habits, their inputs, and their attention are completely misaligned with that. So let me ask you this. What is the real cost of consuming the wrong information every day?
Absolutely. I mean, it could not be overstated. I think the cost of having your attention pulled in different directions out of your control is, I think most immediately is you are not going to be consuming information that's designed to inform you. You're going to be consuming information that's designed to trigger, to push you a certain direction, and to get you to read, which means the information is going to be largely sensationalized and largely designed for clickbait and rage bait. Meaning that once you read it, you're not actually going to feel more informed. You're going to feel, in many ways, agitated, right? You might feel anger or fear. You might feel some sort of an emotional trigger response, which is often the goal of clickbait and rage bait, but you won't actually still know what's going on. And the trickle-down effects of that are even more significant, because you will inevitably encounter in news or current affairs information across the rest of your life when you move on with your day. But now you can't really participate because you don't really know what's happening. You've just heard something is happening. And that can really take you out of conversations that are important in the workplace, in your family dinner table, among your friends, in a bar. You're sort of being isolated from the conversation around you because you don't have the facts to speak to. You don't really know what's happening. And that also, leads to a loss of confidence. a loss of, a sense of enfranchisement of like, oh, I know what's happening around me. What you heard
Hmm.
was Iran, Trump.
Right.
But you don't actually know what's going on. You don't actually know the decisions that are being made. And that can be really disenfranchising and sort of, a killer of confidence and of social cohesiveness and connection. And that's a huge cost, especially as it
Hmm.
compounds over time and forms into habits that trap us.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the part people don't want to sit with because it's not just about being misinformed. It's about being mentally somewhat undisciplined, and you cannot build a focused life with distracted minds. And also, when you don't have the information as well, you're feeling a sense of, so you can't play an extreme of the other. You have to find that balance. So for someone who's listening right now who feels overwhelmed from constantly scrolling, constantly consuming, but want to step or make that one step to where they now actually become informed and still have ownership of where their attention goes, what would you say to them, and how should they take on this challenge of like, okay, I'm informed, but I'm not also in this space of indiscipline and constant aggravation, constant scrolling and consuming, overconsume, overwhelm, and going down rabbit holes.
Totally. Well, I think, with informed.now, our venture, we really focus on the news piece of the
Mm-hmm.
information diet that you might have. And so
Mm-hmm.
I can speak to that a bit more directly, I think. Well, first of all, our solution is a great way to sort of,
Go to the
regain
source.
agency. Yeah, regain agency in news readership, being intentional about it and being purposeful about it and being able to access sources that are not trying to manipulate you. And through our work, we sort of delete a lot of the clickbait sensations and bias that creates noise in the process. But
Mm-hmm.
if you were to take steps, beyond our solution or before our solution, would think of, social media for news, just stop that entirely, right? There are
Yeah.
multiple incentives there at play. That is one, the news media company that is trying to get you into their ecosystem. So trying to
Yeah.
clickbait you into reading an article, saying paying through a paywall, and then staying there for as long as possible. You have those incentives now doubled with the incentives of the social media platform, which is designed for doom scrolling, designed to keep you scrolling for as long as possible. And so
Mm-hmm.
you've got all these forces, all this pressure on you to read, to consume, but not necessarily to be informed. So,
Yes.
on the best case scenario, you stop using social media for news altogether. Now, stepping away from social media entirely is very hard for a lot of people. It's hard for you and I just as well. So one
Mm-hmm.
thing I'd recommend is try to train your algorithm. When you see a news item on Instagram, actively click on it and say, I do not want to see any more of this content. And if you do it a couple of times, the algorithm is so sensitive to your preferences because they're trying to echo chamber you into your own content, it will listen to
Mm-hmm.
you. And so show the algorithm that you're not interested in information that's not in media, that's anything but entertainment. You're here
Right.
for entertainment, you're here for social, but you're not here for like information media. You're not here for news. You have better places for that are more intentional, purposeful, and designed for insight. So if you can't step
Exactly.
away fully from social media, at least try to train your algorithm out of the news content.
Yes, and that's a good thing, good feature that they added. I noticed that they will put things in front of me and they'll ask, "Are you interested in more or less of this?" 'Cause my algorithms are full of mindset and motivational quotes and motivational speeches and more thought leadership and more, stuff on metaphysics and biology. And so, and then there's like, okay, maybe you can, and then they ask you, you have a setting where you can go in and you can reset it. And so that's a great tool. And we got to give them props for that because I'm not sure that's been around. Maybe it's been around for like a year and a half. It hasn't been around that long, but a lot of people don't know or they don't pay attention. So that's great, great information. Now let's shift a little bit into business because this is where things get real interesting. You've built and invested and evaluated across multiple industries. And let's be honest, there is a lot of noise in entrepreneurship right now. A lot of people are building things that look good, but don't actually solve real problems. So I want to ask you directly, what separates a real builder from someone who's just chasing trends? Because obviously that's not what you've done. So tell us what separates that.
Yeah, I mean, this is from my perspective as someone who's operated exited, invested, advised companies, and is currently operating a company. But at the same time, I want to sort of highlight that, you know, when you get advice from another entrepreneur, they only have access to very often just their particular experience. So this is stuff that's worked
Mm.
for me, stuff that
Mhm.
I have sort of been able to confirm in my data set of my life, but it doesn't necessarily work for everybody, right? So my 50 cents is simply that what distinguishes a great builder, a dedicated, devoted builder, and someone who's going to be successful from somebody who is interested in the optics of being a founder, being a CEO, but isn't there for the right reasons. It's
Mhm.
understanding of your customer.
Mm.
It's how intimately well do you know the target customer that you are serving? Do you know their demographics? Or can you describe who your customer is? Problems they come to you to solve, and problems
Mhm.
that they wish they could solve with your solution but can't right now. What hurts the most? What are their pain points? That whole kind of the rich narrative around who is this person that you're serving. That
Mhm.
understanding distinguishes, I think, good entrepreneurs from great entrepreneurs, and I think it's very, very important. You know, across all of my ventures and ventures that I've had a chance to participate in and contribute to, there's been a focus on customer centricity, customer
Yeah.
obsession, customer empathy, which is finding ways to research and have a ongoing conversation with your users, with your readers, with your customers, with your clients, whatever you call them, to get a
Mhm.
really good understanding of who they are, what they care about, and why they're here using your product. If you lose sight of that,
Yes.
you need to go back and find it, because if you lose sight of that for too long, your business will start drifting in
Mhm.
creating a solution that your user isn't valuing. And
Mhm.
that is obviously the beginning of the end.
Wow, wow, that's very important. And so it sounds like discipline, identity, clarity. I love that. So let's go a little bit deeper back to informed now specifically. This because this wasn't just an idea. This was a response to a real problem, being an example from what you just shared with us. What made you say this needs to exist, informed now? And who was
Informed.now.
how did you
Yeah.
identify your clients, like your
So
ideal client avatar and getting intimate with them?
yeah, informed.now was built kind of out of a boiling realization, or a simmering realization that became more stronger and stronger over the years, which is that most people don't enjoy reading news, and they're
Mm,
actually having a very stressful experience reading news. And it didn't take a lot of testing to figure that out, because you could see it all over, in conversations with your friends, conversations with broader community, conversations online. There's so much
mhm,
frustration with the current ways of consuming news, and it's so deep seated, or deep rooted, and it's been happening for so long, that a solution is needed. Or there is been a loss of faith that this can be fixed with the solutions that exist, that there needs to
mhm,
be like a reshaping of the entire news reading habit. And so we've tested it across, initially our small community, our group, our family, our friends of friends, our family of friends, everybody we could easily reach, right, to
yeah,
start. And then we thought of ways of how do we scale that so we can see the resonance on a much larger data set. And so we've done
mhm,
that at a larger scale with surveys, with outreach, with billboards, with signs, with playing different experiments to figure out, you know, are people frustrated? What are they frustrated about? And, what do they feel is the solution? And so
mm,
at the very beginning, we let our research, our user research, define what our build and what our product was going to look like, so that it
mhm.
is hitting the mark in terms of is solving the problem that people have, not a problem we think they have or
They
we
have
want them to have.
specifics. Oh, I love that. So let's go deeper for a moment because people will hear everything you've done and it sounds impressive, but success does not come without pressure, right? Setbacks, or even those moments where things don't go as planned. So I'm going to ask you this for what is that moment where things did not go your way? And then what did you learn from it? What did it
Yeah.
teach you in the process?
And I would say it goes back to your earlier question. So kind of this is being that applies to both. One of our
Hmm.
first and most important struggles of challenges, and it led us into a pivot early on, is this realization that our initial target user, target reader in our case, isn't somebody that it wasn't the right target for us. We initially started out building for the executive, building for a leader of leaders of companies, of industries, of investors, folks who are very, very busy and obviously need an efficient way of consuming information. But
Mm,
as we explore that profile, and while, yes, they had obviously the same problem, one of the things that we didn't realize from the very beginning, or didn't realize that as well as we should have, is that this profile was already being very overserved by information
mm,
services. And
ah,
another solution in that environment is going to be very hard for us to communicate the value of, and it's going to be very hard for us to fit that in. And so that realization led us to say, well, what about the everyday person? Right? The everyday Alisa, the everyday Kira, not the Dr. Alisa, not the CEO Kira. The everyday
right.
person has the same needs in terms of they're
Yes.
busy, they want to know what's going on, but they don't have a lot of time to do the research themselves because it's draining.
Mm-hmm.
That person actually isn't served, or they're underserved in terms of pure high signal, signal rich information services. That doesn't exist.
Yes, I
And so
agree
our
with
pivot
that.
was about changing the customer focus. And it took us a lot of kind of iteration or customer research to figure out that, oh, we're sort of on the right path, but we need to change it, tweak a little bit to get to the right idea. It was very stressful at the time, but it was
Yeah.
the most important and the first pivot that we went through.
Yeah. So mindset shift helped you keep going when it could have, when it looked like it wasn't going to go that way, but it took you further and actually helped your product to become a more customized, more suitable, or widely sought after product. So if you can walk us through when someone encounters the interface of Informed Now, what does that look like?
Yeah. It's designed to really change everything that we know about news reading today. Right. So news reading today, you encounter it as, perhaps an application or a website that is peppered with images, pop-ups, videos playing in the background. Obviously, the
Mhm.
advertisements are all over the place. And there's
Yeah.
almost an immediate overwhelm of like, here's all this information and you're missing out and you need to read it immediately because it's breaking, it's urgent, blah, blah, blah. And everything is sensationalized, like crazy. We thought, well, what is a very purposeful and a very quiet way to deliver news that resists all of that? And for us, that was SMS. We realized that this would sidestep the chaos of social media and the chaos of the web, while also avoiding the clutter of email. Email now is not
Mm.
really a readable place anymore for most of
Oh
us.
my gosh. Tell me about it.
And so, yeah, we didn't set out to build another app or another website or another kind of old newsletter solution. We went
Mhm.
into the SMS format for its simplicity, its minimalism, its complete avoidance of sensationalizing because you cannot
Yeah,
really,
there's nothing there except what you went there for.
there is no rich media. There's no images,
Yes.
files all throwing at you. And it's always on one side of your screen because if it's longer, you're not really going to read it. So you're confined to a lot of a very strict brevity. Like the things you
Yes.
say need to fit into a very small text. And that's the channel that we chose for its minimalism, for its simplicity, and also in many ways for its lack of functionality. We didn't want our product to be able to do anything, walk the walk of news minimalism.
Yes.
And so the way the interface looks is you text our number. You can also
Mhm.
sign up online. That's a perfectly easy way to do it.
Yes.
But you can also text our toll-free number. So it's 844-406-INFO, which is, a very simple toll-free number that you can just text and you say, hey, I'll subscribe or hello. And right away, you become part of our ecosystem. It's very easy to interact with because you're always talking to a human person. You're never talking to a robot or AI. You're
Wow.
talking to our team. And any support questions, any questions of any sort, any feedback, any kind of interaction with the product or our team is directly accessible to you, which is also
Mm,
designed for that customer research angle that I mentioned is important earlier, but you're always talking to us. And if you ever want to stop or give any sort of command of subscribe, unsubscribe, start, stop, you just do that automatically and they're instant. There is no
wow.
emails, there is no passwords or account management, there's no privacy violating cookies being collected
Why can
over
everything be
your
this way?
activity. So that's the interface.
That is fire. I mean, I gotta say that's fire. I haven't done it yet, so I'm gonna definitely check because that sounds like me. Now I'm gonna be really up on stuff when it comes to the news and not the last person to find out because I do avoidance. a little bit about literally, I'm like, okay, so what's happening? There's war. Okay, wait, what? Someone sends me a clip. I'm like, oh man. So now I go look and I go to like CNN.com and I try to avoid the videos because now you're going to get an ad. You got to wait for it. So I'm like reading the highlights of things. So I'm like, okay, this was definitely designed for my type of personality because I like to be informed, but I also don't like getting sucked in to propaganda. I just want the facts. Like, I just want to
Exactly.
know the updates. And then I can look at my whole, well, how that's going to affect my clients, how that's going to affect my industry, how's that going to affect. And then that's work I do outside of someone trying to tell me what they think. Well, oh, yeah, you better, like, it was last night. Somebody sent me a video. Oh, yeah, I was driving my Lyft and some two older people got in my car and they're selling out their property in Alabama and they're like, oh yeah, you got to do a 6 months plan because it's gonna get worse. Close your eyes, think about the worst thing that happened. No, that's 10 times. And this could be happening. I don't know, but I'm not gonna sit here and panic over it. It's preparation is key, but then I'm listening to someone else's version of what could be happening, and it might just be happening right now. This could be it. This could be the worst. We don't know. But you don't, when you start scrolling on social media and you watch that one video, they'll send you like a ton more. And then sometimes people send me stuff and I don't ever click it because I'm like, that's just gonna mess up my algorithm.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think
Yeah.
philosophically speaking, we as humans are just in a constant struggle to recruit each other to our version of reality. And we're doing that
Mm-hmm.
all the time with stories, with storytelling, with conversations, everything that we do. Social media amplifies that to a scale that is no longer human, right? It is so maximalist. It is so extreme. The amount of content that gets produced, especially now with the AI, they got a lot of content that gets that we're pushed to consume. It's very stressful. It's overwhelming. It's draining in the process, and it's really
Mm-hmm.
not something that a person who's trying to make up their own mind can feasibly handle. And so we are born and designed uh, as informed.now in opposition to this trend, right? And as an alternative to a media ecosystem that is
Yeah.
constantly trying to trap us, influence us, entertain us, and disorient us along the way.
Yes, yeah. Well, so my question when you think about Inform Now, where do you see this going and growing in the world? And what's you and your team, what are you all looking forward to the most? And what's your big why and goals with this platform?
Totally. I mean, we are on the way, and we're already made a lot of breakthroughs in that direction, becoming the number one news by SMS service in North America, because we're live in all the states and in Canada. But we want to create an alternative for every news reader out there to say, well, okay, I can read traditional legacy news, or there are other ways I can consume information that is not
Mm-hmm.
algorithmic, that is not AI based, that is not doom scroll. I want every reader, a news reader in the future, right? The next generation of news readers, people that are just graduating high school, just graduating college, to have more options that don't all look like each other. They have more
Right.
opportunities to say, well, actually, I like this way of consuming my information. I like
Mm-hmm.
information that empowers me to make up my own mind.
Yes.
That's what I prefer. So we want to create a viable alternative, a default alternative even for our people, and for people
Yes.
who are also news minimalists and are also
Yes.
mindful around media consumption and are safeguarding and treasuring their attention along the way.
I love it. And there has to be a little bit more awareness. Like, I feel like when you open social media, there should be a warning, like the one you get at the end of a commercial for cigarettes or marijuana. I don't know. That says what is it? The U.S. Department of whatever warns that smoking can blah, blah, blah. It's just like you should open your social media. It's like, warning, you should consider stepping away from this after 30 minutes because blah, 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 blah because it is something that we're going to have to take back. I mean, I talk to youths a lot of times and they really believe that and I don't want to go back and forth, like I don't want to start arguing anything, but so many young people think being a social media influencer is an actual career path. And it could be arguably so, but there's so many things that they don't know behind social media influencing. You're not your own once you're getting paid by other people to be something in front of anyone, really. And if that's your job, then today you're talking about X and X shampoo being the best shampoo ever. But oh, look, I tried this new one. So it's like it's not a personality. It's not a thing. Like it's a thing, but it's not a real sustainable thing. Because today's influencer, it can be out influenced by the next most viral person. So that's not a sustainable career, even if it might be something you can make really good money off of. It's not sustainable because they see, quote unquote, so many people being successful at it because they show off things that they supposedly have. They think it's a real career. And I'm like, that's where we need to have these people teaching our young people how to think outside of the algorithms that are presenting to them because they're just taking it. We're not filtering that information for them and the use of it so that they don't know. So if I had to ask you, when you think about, I feel like we still have a very empowered next generation of young people too. Today I was in a community meeting and I learned about one of the colleges, I think it's Arizona State University, where they have IRL lounge, in real life lounge, where they come in and they check in their phones and they're just playing board games and they're doing connection and networking with each other. So there's no technology in there, in that lounge for them. And I thought they built that space. They went to the school and they asked for that space. So there's still a lot of young people actually taking steps towards lessening the impact of the algorithms in their life and in their journey. So it's just happy to know. What do you see happening outside of what you've done with other types of platforms that brings that more minimalist approach to other things, like maybe just finding brands and things you need?
I think that as humans kind of operate in these cycles of overcorrecting for the previous cycle, I feel like life is just a sequence of overcorrections. And I think
Mm.
right now we're in this very strong wave, or we have been in this very strong wave of maximizing everything, creating super apps, creating, endless feed experiences across everything, right? Because there's an
Mhm.
endless feed across every app now, every social media, and beyond just social media too. I think we've stuffed a lot of, maximalism in every piece of technology so far, and
Mhm.
I think what we're sort of waking up to in media, in technology, which has disproportionate effects on our kind of total life because it's so much of what we use. I think what we're waking up to is people and new generations, especially recognizing, realizing that this is too much. This is actually way too much. And I want less. And I want to be more mindful and I want to be more selective. So I think across hardware, the kind of phones that people are using, across
Mhm.
apps, the apps that exist, the apps that survive, the apps that people actually wind up preferring,
Mhm.
and certainly
Mhm.
across media, we're going to see
Mhm.
a shrinking in many ways, or maybe a niching of a lot of things so that
Mhm.
as people become more purposeful in their consumption, which I do think is the overcorrection from the current trend, they'll be met with solutions that speak to that increased purposefulness in
Mhm.
in their option choice.
Yeah, I can agree. I concur with that absolutely. So let's do the segment that's called Flip the Script, one of my favorite segments of this show. If you can share with us a moment in your life and in your work where you had to completely shift your perspective in order to move forward. Can you share that with us? What was it and what was the outcome?
When I was a kid, I was part of a very difficult car accident where I was disabled for a couple of years. And,
Wow.
I was, obviously confronted with a very obvious question of like, do I accept my kind of newfound limitations or
Yeah.
do I try to defy them and kind of regain my physical ability, my cognitive ability? And it was a hard decision because it's a decision you make once, but then you have to keep committing to it every single day onwards. And it took me a couple of years, but it
Uh-huh.
was so worth it. The effort to defy your limitations, I think is always worth it.
Mm.
I really believe that every setback, every challenge has the potential to make you stronger if you let it.
Yes.
But the key
Yes.
is to let it and is to lean into it and is to challenge yourself to grow from it and not be complacent of like, oh, these are my new limitations. Okay, I'll live with this. Don't fit
Mm,
into a smaller box. Keep growing out of that box.
yes.
That's my spirit.
I love that mindset because it's definitely a part of my journey as well. When I suffered major head injury that caused damage tissue
Mm,
around my brain, and I had so
wow,
many different prognosis, and there was no way for them to help. That you can't fix those. Those either repair themselves, and how they will determines how whether you're going to be able to walk or how they said, oh, she might have to have like a caregiver for the rest of her life. She can finish high school. They give me the read. And I guess at some point after a good year and a half, and I'm conscious enough, I kept pushing those limits, like you said, did not accept it. I've just never accepted. But I also like knew what my limitations were realistically and just navigate them. So that's why I talk about I have an how can I mindset. So when stuff comes up, it's like, okay, so how can I work in spite of this? How can I work through this? How do I work around this? But how can I get to where I want to go in spite of this? You know? So that's kind of what my mindset is. So, what is success for you now? You are still got so many years ahead of you. How are you defining success for yourself right now?
totally. And I love what you mentioned. I think we have the head injury in common. That was also kind of my context. To your question around success, I think my success used to be around how can I be more successful? And it's become a lot more around how
Yes.
can I get people around me as successful as possible. So it's become a lot less about me and a lot more around supporting the people around me, supporting my community, people that are our customers. And
Yeah.
so success to me now is, how many people's lives can I affect and how much value can I bring them? Like how much clarity, confidence, and peace of mind can
Mm,
I give to our users? How much
ah,
opportunity and empowerment uplifting can I give to my team and to all our partners and everybody who helps us in this journey of building an inevitable company for the new era of news is how can we help everybody around us succeed?
yes, I love that. One question that pops into my mind: how do you all really get this news in the like? You don't have to go through the
Yeah.
proprietary information of back end. So, do you have like a team of news writers that prepare the news specifically for your platform?
Yeah. So the way I would think of it in sort of like the high level bird's eye view is we are bringing the research skill set into the news industry that's been more around writing skill sets, creative writing skill sets,
Mm,
punditizing skill sets, commentary skill sets. We are really focused on research. And that's the type of skill set that we
mm,
hire for. It's the type of skill set that we train on our team is we
mhm,
are news researchers. And so
mm,
bringing that perspective, what we do is we are extremely obsessed with primary sources. We don't care
mhm.
about what some journalist in New York Times or some journalist in Fox thinks about the issue. In fact, we actively avoid it and try to remove that from our coverage.
Yeah.
And we are very interested in what's the horse's mouth saying? What is the
Mhm.
original and primary source on the issue saying to us. And for example, an example of that is like if there's a Supreme Court case, right, and a big decision comes out, we're not going to read what CNBC thinks about it or what Financial
You're
Times thinks
going
about
to
this.
the court documents.
We're going into the court documents. We're going to read that directly. If the bill,
Yes.
if a bill is passed by Congress, we're not going to learn about that from TV anchors. We're going to read the bill. And so that allegiance to primary sources has helped us a
Mhm,
lot with, keeping our focus on the facts and on the signal and letting our
mhm.
reader make up their mind. So that gives you maybe a bit of a preview as to how our process works.
Oh,
But
that absolutely does make
yeah,
sense. It's exactly what I was looking for because again, there's a group of us. There's 8 billion people on the planet, and I'm sure at least 1 to 2 billion of us who are like, we don't want all this scrolling, we don't want to know how we don't want to know how, Jack Jones from CNN thinks about it because that's a lot of perspective and based on where they want you to go and what their sponsors are wanting them to go. That's where it goes. Not sometimes not even the
oh,
person you're watching.
absolutely. We've been forced to accept advertisement in many different forms. across every domain of our life. And this is me
Yes.
getting really philosophical here, but like, I think my ideal vision of the world is that product discovery, service discovery is also purposeful, is also intentional, and also with you in a place of agency rather than
Mm-hmm.
passively kind of fed to you through everything
Yes.
that you consume, right? It's like we have this billboard culture on the internet and in real life. And I
Yeah.
don't think this is the way things have to be. And specifically in news, which is the niche that, obviously we're operating in, we don't believe this is the place for advertisements. We don't believe this is a place for solicitation or sponsors. Like I don't believe that is the right place for it, because that's a place where you come vulnerable, in a place of, hey, I don't know something, I want to learn something. You come curious and you're giving credibility to the publisher, saying, okay, I'd like for you to teach me. It's almost as unethical as having ads in your like preschool or in your school.
Right.
Imagine you're going to class to learn something, and instead of learning it, in the middle of the teacher speaking, there's an ad that just pops up on the
Like, by
whiteboard.
the way, I have brownies to sell.
Yeah. Or by the way, if you learned about this new concept, buy these new like
New Barbie dolls or something.
new Barbie doll gym enhancers. It's like you're in a biology class and you're seeing a lecture on biology, and it's like, hey, it's also important to stay fit. Here are supplements that you could buy right now.
Yes. This is
To us
why I
that
can't
sounds
stand YouTube. I'm sorry.
right, 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 right. I mean, it's everywhere. And it's like, we're just
Yes.
if we're going on this trajectory, we're continuing this trajectory, we're only a few years away from having ads on chalkboards in schools. And I think it's
I
time we
honestly, you're
reverse.
right. Oh my
I think it's
gosh.
time we reverse that trend, because in news
Yeah.
and coming to learn about what's happening around you in your environment is a very sensitive, very critical environment. It's not a place to
Mhm.
be solicited, manipulated, influenced, or advertised to.
Exactly. And if you listen to my podcast, I'm sure my listeners realize you don't have ads. You don't.
Right.
And there's a reason for that. And I was invited to be on a huge platform to have my podcast. And it was all about, oh yeah, you could be bringing in an extra $2,000 to $3,000 a month by ads. And I'm like, that is the one thing. Most of my guests that write to me, they're like, thank you for not bombarding us with a bunch of
Right.
ads in this podcast. I'm like, yeah, because they're like, oh yeah, you should be recording like 40 minutes. I'm like, look, if people want, I personally I listen to this podcast and I listen to a lot of other podcasts. And I am picky. I have my episodes. I don't listen to every episode because I'm not necessarily interested in a topic, but they're podcasts that I follow, at least 10 worldwide.
Mm.
And they don't have ads either. They just have the person saying, okay, we're sponsored by da da da, and they just say that and they're done. I'm fine with that to an extent, but those constant ads popping up throughout this 1 hour episode, like that distracts me. Now I'm like, check out from the episode and then
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't ever finish the episode and I'm struggling to finish the episode. So I really think that we should rethink that. And it's going to have to start with us taking, like you said, personal agency and looking at what the alternatives are. And as much as I feel like informed now might be a quote unquote alternative now as we ascend to a higher, again, philosophical, as our vibration ascends and we get higher across the globe, these are going to be the main ways of how we want to opt in to get information that we need. So
Yeah.
powerful. Thank you for sharing that piece as well. So mindset bites to go. We're going to land strong. If someone's listening right now, Kira, and they feel overwhelmed, distracted, or stuck, what is one mindset shift that they can make today that you can tell them as a consumer of information and then also as someone who might be building something and wanting to build? How can they think about, the world around us and some of the ethical things and problems that they might want to solve, that they're listening and then they're on the edge. They've been thinking about something, but they're not sure, like this doesn't fit. Give them some courage, that young man, that young woman. I'm going to step away from the microphone and the camera, and it's just you and our listeners and viewers. Here we go.
Totally. Thank you. Thank you for that, Alyssa. And it seems like you're sort of asking for two kind of addresses here. One is to the person that cares about their attention, person that wants to reclaim their attention, I recommend that you kind of take a few moments to do an attention audit, right? Or make this a ritual in your week or in your month or in your quarter to say, what are all the places, around my media consumption, around my social consumption, around my just overall, tech or real life consumption? What are all the places that are demanding my attention? And write them out. I think writing things out creates a different clarity of thought and see, well, are these places where I want my attention to go? Am I being intentional around placing my attention in these places? Or are there things on this list that I actually want to cross out? So I call this the attention audit, and it's something that obviously we do a lot, on our team at informed.now personally, but also something we pioneer through our product and our work. For the young entrepreneur and the person who has any semblance of an entrepreneurial instinct in them, I really urge you, no matter how young you are, you may be in high school, you may be in college, you may be starting your first job. I urge you, if you have solutions, if you have dreams, if you have ideas to improve this world, to start today, to start now. Being a logo collector of different brands, experiences, resume lines on your resume is not going to prepare you to be an entrepreneur. In fact, nothing is going to prepare you from being an entrepreneur except for actually doing the thing, except for actually starting and actually doing it, right? So you may think, I have this idea, I want to work on it, but I'm not experienced enough. So I'm going to stay here, work here longer, work another job, and collect a few more kind of logos on my resume, stamps on my resume. That's not going to prepare you. The experience of starting something from nothing is an emotional, spiritual, cognitive kind of transformation that nothing else in life can really prepare you for. And so when you have an idea and you have any semblance of confidence or conviction in an idea, try not to wait. Try to start. It doesn't have to be huge immediately. It doesn't have to be everything. You don't have to quit your job. Start taking active steps in bringing that idea into fruition. Try to, actually sketch it out, launch it, start talking to people, start researching. Take those little steps forward today. Don't wait until tomorrow.
I love that. That was so powerful, Kira. It's exactly what I was looking for. Start now. That's my talk. I say it all the time. Do it now and start now because and the other big thing you said, nothing can prepare you to be an entrepreneur. We can give you all the advice. But one of the things we say is, I like to say, is begin with the end in mind and don't stop. Do all the pivots, get a mentor, because that might be a little bit of a cheat code as well, but don't stop in whatever you believe in. So thank you so much for those lines. So Kira, tell us how we can connect with you and how we can get started with, I would say, taking our agency back and avoiding toxic news sources.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the word toxic is a very fitting word for the ecosystem that we inherit.
Yeah.
I couldn't, all these thoughts, these ideas, if you resonate with them, right? If the listener resonates with them, we have built an entire product and an entire philosophy that we've designed around giving you your attention back, giving you your agency back, specifically in the niche of current affairs, world news, and world-changing world events, right? That's news that as we see it. And so our product is super easy to find and to join. Our name, which is informed.now, is also our website. And so if you go to informed.now, it takes about 5 to 6 seconds to sign up and to experience the power of facts back in your palm.
Yes, I started last night, but I didn't finish, but it's definitely going to be my secret sauce, and I'll share it with whoever wants to, because that's just it. I don't, now I feel like I know what's going on. I'm going to know what's going on. I'm going to know it right away, and I'm not going to have to filter a whole bunch of stuff and end up going down rabbit holes in my thought patterns. I can make conscious decisions based on information, not opinions.
Yeah.
Kira, thank you so much for your enlightened information on both the journey of being a builder, an entrepreneur, a leader, and a thinker that is making change, and also getting us to know about this amazing tool as Informed Now. How can we connect with you? What's your platform that we can just connect with you if we're We would just want to follow along with what you're doing and how you're building.
Totally. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for having me on. It's been a real honor. And
Yes.
a great way to keep in touch with me is I'm very friendly on LinkedIn and also across every single other social platform. And I'm always looking forward to connect with people who are resonating with our mission and with our philosophy. So please reach out, shoot a text. Always happy to connect.
Yes, thank you so much. Well, here's the truth. You don't need more information. You need better thinking, better focus, and better discipline, because your attention is your power. And if you do not control it, something else will. Make sure you stay connected with Kira and check out informed.now and tap into what he's building. And as always, keep mastering your mindset. Think, speak, do, become. We will see you on the next episode. Bye now.